When we talk about the issue of brokenness, and we make reference to how maybe we are broken. And for us as believers, obviously, this is a concept that should be near and dear to your heart. It should be a pathway that is well trod. You shouldn't be unfamiliar with brokenness as a believer. But I think sometimes it can be a temptation to forget exactly how broken we really are, right? We prepare ourselves. Like you think about getting ready for the day, for example, just a basic plain day, going to work. The things you have to do in the morning to get yourself prepared to not look broken, so to speak, or to look sleep deprived, right? You have to wash your face, do something with your hair. You have to put on new clothes. You have to adjust things. You have to make sure things are shaved and things are brushed. There's all just from a single night's sleep, the stuff you have to do to take care of things are kind of starting to fall apart here, just to get out the door, is you have to confront a whole host of brokenness, and that's just the physical thing. Not to mention the things you thought when you woke up, and the things you had to deal with a conversation with somebody, or that someone was supposed to make breakfast and they didn't, and now you're angry or upset. The depth of brokenness in the human experience, from the very basic things up to and including the things that the Lord mentions of His people, is extremely deep. And it runs the gamut from kind of maybe what you could call petty things to the most tragic and horrible. And when the Lord points out all these symptoms of brokenness for Israel, I think it's good to kind of just take note of what exactly were the things that they were doing, because these are often the things that we're doing at the same time, or the things that we're guilty of. I'm just kind of quickly glance through the chapter just to kind of highlight, what are these brokennesses? What are these things that the Lord sees in them? Well, first of all, it says that there's an increase in lies. This is in the first verse of chapter 12. He daily increases lies and desolation. Have you found your tongue decreasing or increasing in the truth that it speaks? Because that is a great indicator of where you are in your relationship with the Lord. It's a great barometer of how things are going spiritually in your life. He says that he has deceitful scales, verse 7, a cunning Canaanite. It's funny that he calls them Canaanites here. He doesn't call them his people. They are in the land of Canaan, but they are behaving like the inhabitants that lived there before, that the Lord kicked out because of their abominable practices. He says, a cunning Canaanite, deceitful scales are in his hands. He is doing his work, and he's cheating. He's cheating to make money. And again, another barometer in our life. How are you doing in the realm of your work? Are you skimping? Are you taking something away that you should be giving? Are you not practicing fairness? Pride, verse 8. I have become rich, I have found wealth for myself in all my labors. They shall find in me no iniquity of sin. I got it. Is pride beginning to well up again? This is something you have to stomp out with vigilance all the time, pride. You just got to have a foot on it. You're like, there it is. And I'm going to just, You ever seen somebody when they put out a cigarette and they kind of go like that? That's you with pride. You just got to put it down. You got to put it out. Is pride beginning to rear its head? Provoking, verse 14 in chapter 12. Ephraim provoked him to anger most bitterly. Are you treating the Lord with contempt? Are you literally kind of thumbing your nose at him? Such a funny phrase, isn't it? Thumbing the nose. And lastly, just being unthankful. chapter 13, verse 6. When they had pasture, they were filled, right? You have the things you need. And their heart was exalted. They lifted their own heart up, and they forgot. They just forgot. They let it dwindle off into the ether, You see, these are a lot of things, and they're the same things we struggle with. The problem was, again, not that they existed, but that these things were not accounted for. There was no ledger. There was no writing of it, Sometimes, in your study of the Word, or even here in the service, if the Lord is picking at something, you need to write it down and say, this sin, this weakness of mine, this brokenness is an area I need you to come in again and heal. Make note of the things that beset you, the things that cause you to stumble. Make note of them and invite the Lord into them. So often I think when we have to deal with sin, and I'm guilty of this myself, but we kind of do this kind of like, called the sin dance. Like, well, it's maybe not that bad, and I'm sorry, but let's just go on with things, right? I was like, no, when the sin comes and you're able to kind of deal with it, invite the Lord into the process of healing, because otherwise you're gonna become like what he says of his own people about them being like their relationship is like the morning cloud that lifts and the smoke. It just disappears. It's temporary. Don't justify your sin. Don't talk about how it's not that important. If the Lord himself found reason to bring it up to you, is that not reason to invite him into it? He does it for a reason and a purpose.